Hi and welcome to Tabletop Gaming. My name is Charlie and whew, we are finally at the top 10. If this is the first one you're watching, this is part 3, and the reason why it's part 3 is because we are counting down 50 of the best party games. Now obviously 50 in one video is a lot, I appreciate that. So we have 2 previous videos to bring you to this point. And what is this point? The top 10 party games. Now, the order of this list was done through a thoroughly scientific method, namely the order our editor wanted to put them in, and therefore there are going to be some disagreements about what the top 10 should be. Namely, if you saw my last video, I personally would put Coup higher. I think it's great. Would it make the top 10? Who knows? I appreciate this is going to be a list where you may not agree. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I would love to be able to pass those on and say, yeah, look, everybody agrees with me. This should totally be in the top 10, or I definitely told you this. Pop in the comments to let me do that. Let me know what you would put in your top 10. Let me know which ones you would take out or don't like, and let me know your stories. What fun have you had with these games? Because that's what they're there for. Without further ado, let's take a look at our first entry, 22nd Showdown. This is a game of challenges in set times. You're going to split into teams with one person as a judge, and you're going to be given a challenge. That you're going to have to do as quickly as possible, because once you've completed it, the sand timer that got going gets flicked to the other side, which is penalty for the other team. So you're going to need to keep trying to flick that back and forth until there is a victory. Now, that all sounds lovely and simple, but what are you going to be asked to do? It could be anything. You could be asked to pronounce the names of every single one of your teammates wrong, which is very difficult, oddly, to do under pressure. As soon as you have to, your brain takes over and goes, I don't know what to say. It might be that you have to wheelbarrow someone through a door. It might be you have to draw a tattoo on yourself. Now, granted, the host, maybe not the judge, but the host, the person whose house it is, needs to be okay with you doing random things in that house. But as long as that is the case, you can have great fun. Break down all sorts of barriers, all sorts of concerns. It's a great icebreaker because you have no choice but to complete these things very quickly. There's no time to feel awkward about it. And because it is so quick, you're really, really engaged because you have to be prepared to do something very, very quickly once the timer flips over, making it a really fun, really bouncy, really hype up and energy-led party game for everyone. In at number 9 is Wavelength. This is a very clever game about where on the spectrum you would put things, basically. So, one person is going to know where the marker on the spectrum is. A to B, somewhere here maybe, somewhere here. And we want you to guess where that is. But the parameters that we're given, everybody knows. So, good superpower, bad superpower, okay? So what would we say, if we're looking at a spectrum with good superpower on one side, bad superpower on the other, what would we say that this is? What would we say to get other people to go here? Okay, maybe then let's go flying. Flying is a good superpower, it's useful, but they're certainly not the kind of superpowers you could get that are pretty epic. It's sort of like past the middle, but it's all right. So I'll say to everyone, flying. And then it's up to them to try and work out where on the spectrum it is. Do they agree with me? Do they think that I think is flying is rubbish? Do they think I've always wanted to fly and therefore it's great? It's a way almost of getting to know people and how they think, but also trying to second guess what they're doing. Are they trying to think how you're trying to think, or are they thinking how they think, or have they just gone flying? Who knows? It's up to you to try and get it. Once you then uncover, so this is then in a dial style thing, once you then uncover it to show where it was, their marker, where they put it, will then be rated. So is it directly where you wanted it, or is it within a remit, and you get points based on that. Now that makes it a very conversational game, a good fun one to do, and one that you can potentially do over Zoom as well if necessary. But hopefully, with restrictions slowly lifting for us in the UK, it might be that you can get a real group together to play a real game in person, which would be delightful. In at number 8 is Cash and Guns, which our contributor said gives you the feeling simultaneously of being both cool and silly. Now at each turn, you're going to point your foam pistol at another player, which may be loaded with real, it may be loaded with blanks, and they're going to choose to either withstand your bullets or going to duck. Those that are left, those that survive that, are going to be able to pick up the loot in the middle, which is cash, diamond, painting, or medkits, which is equally as important. Our contributor also referred to the fact that when you pick up the pistol, you immediately go pew pew, which, yeah, every time, handshot first. But ultimately, it's a game of betrayals and silliness and fun, and a quite interactive way to play a game too. In at number 7 is Time's Up, and this is a game that's going to propel you to be more silly with every round that you play. Now, in your teams, you're going to try to communicate a word to them. In the first round, that's using only the description. You have a couple of words that you can't say, but other than that, say what you want. After that, you only get one word to describe it, and after that, you can only mime it. Once you've gone through those processes though, and you're using the same words again, what you're doing is creating a whole language around your original guesses. So it's a game of sort of keeping in jokes within the thing. So you end up laughing at how stupid something is. Why did we connect this with that? But we have, and we do, and we may then continue to use that in normal everyday life, which is always amusing. It's one of those that doesn't sound like it will have you laughing, but you'll be giggling the whole way through, and at the end, you've got a whole load of additional laughs to have in the real world. At number 6 is Decrypto. This is another game of trying to work out what they mean when one person knows the answers. One person is going to slot the card into a little sort of decryptor, of which the screen basically just lets you see what the numbers are behind. So you get a code from that. Now that code then has associated pictures, and you're going to try and get your teammates to work out what the code is from the pictures that are in front of them. But you can't tell them that directly. So it might be that you have eggs for number 3, and you're going to try and say, right, cracked, in the hope that they instantly associate that with eggs, and then they pop that into the correct code. Now, obviously, miscommunication is an issue. They might not always understand what you mean. They may get that wrong. But the interesting part about this is the opposing team are also going to try to be guessing the code that's there. If they beat it, if they manage to figure it out, they take an interception token. If your team fails to figure it out, you take a miscommunication token. 2 of either is a success or a failure in exactly the way you'd expect to be there. And at number 5 is Skull. This is one of my personal favourites. I absolutely love this. It is not only a beautiful game, which it totally is, but it's also quite easy to pick up and get going for people that haven't played it before. So, all you'll have is a couple of tiles, and some will have a skull on and some will have a rose on. Now, each turn, you're going to start off by every player laying down in front of them either a skull or a rose face down. So you don't know what I've laid, I don't know what you've laid, and what we're going to do is we're then going to bet how many we can find. So I might have laid down a flower myself, and I might look at other people and think, I think there's 2 flowers in this. I think there's 2 roses that I can find if you asked me to. The next player is then either going to sort of, yeah, sure, fine, you keep that, or they're going to try and outbid me and say, do you know what, I think I can find 3. As we go around, the higher the bids get, you also try and work out what it is people might have, what did you lay down? If that was that, then what have you laid down here? Once the highest bid has been found, it is then up to them to uncover the flowers, which is great. All they'll do, reach out, flip those over and work out which of the players has the flowers. But hit a skull and you lose one of your own tokens. Lose all of those tokens or cards or however we're describing them, and you're out. So you have to think tactically. The fun of this game though isn't just the ability to sort of catch people out or to work out who it is, but the mind games that you end up playing. Should I do this? Why are they doing that? Last round they bid that, that means that there's that, or they're doing that quite a lot, or this is what they seem to be playing, or I don't think they would do that. Which adds to the fun because you're constantly thinking, you're constantly involved, and there are people, you end up sort of dividing as well. You're like, I really don't want that person to win. So as soon as they find a skull, victory is glorious because you're like, haha, they failed it. Not that I'm competitive at all. In at number 4 is Sheriff of Nottingham. This is going to see you bluffing your way through. Can you get past with contraband, or can you convince that there's nothing in your bag that is to be seen or to be worried about, whilst also convincing the Sheriff of Nottingham that you're perfectly fine, it's fine. Of course, if you're playing as the Sheriff, finding those contraband items is delightful because you've managed to get them before they go across. Well done you, that's equally as satisfying. So whichever role you play in this game, you're going to have a satisfying outcome if you do well. If not, the other one is going to be really pleased, really smug, and you're going to have to deal with that smugness. Basically, players are going to declare what it is that is in their bag, except they only need to be truthful about the amount, and they only need to list one type when there might be multiple. If the sheriff thinks that they are being deceitful, they may open the bag and search for contraband, which the player will lose if they have lied. If they haven't, however, the sheriff has to pay for their mistake. And there's nothing to stop you bribing. It's full of chickens. I'll give you one if you let me pass. All these options are available to you, and it makes it a very sneaky, very fun game of social deduction and trying to work out what it is that your pals are doing, are thinking, or are planning. Winner, of course, is the one that got the most victory points, but you'll be winning however because you'll be enjoying the game so much. Isn't that cheesy? In at number 3 is Spyfall, which is delightfully silly from the offset. You're a spy who's landed, but you don't know where, but you don't want the others to know that you don't know where you are. Which means you're going to have to bluff your way through. They'll ask a question, you've got to try and give an answer that's either vague enough or points in a direction that they are satisfied with. Our contributor said that this works particularly well when going up from the player count, so 4 as a minimum it works okay with, and 5 it works, or 5 or more it works fabulously with. He also said this is one of the rare games where not being the special character, not being the one that doesn't know what they're talking about, is just as fun as being that one that has to blag it and has to work their way through. There's a lot of fun to be had by all players in this game. At number 2 is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Now, it is no surprise that this is on the list. Basically, you are going to play either as villagers, which will be the majority, or one person as a werewolf. Now, amidst closed eyes, there will be various events happening that you'll use your own powers, both as villagers and as a werewolf. And then once everything is back to normal, once eyes are all opened, you'll try and eliminate someone from the village, hoping, of course, that you've eliminated the werewolf. However, if you eliminate a human, that's a win for the werewolf themselves. Ultimately, you're trying to find who it is. The werewolf, of course, trying to cast aspersions on others, and potentially being aware of other themes which you can use to sort of shift the blame as well, or get help to shift the blame, I should say. There's a lot of muddling that can occur. It's very easy to sort of slip into one frame of argument and then find that you're completely on the wrong track. And also there are plenty of expansions to this, so that can shake things up even more. Our contributor Matthew Vernall called this a masterpiece, which really tells you how much fun you can gain from it. Finally, number 1, what is the top party game that we would recommend? Well, it's Codenames. I almost feel, could it be anything different? I fully agree with this being a top one because it is one that you can take anywhere and everywhere and have great fun with a multitude of people. Now, I believe everyone goes through a phase where they're like, I want to be a spy. This taps into that, and it's a really good sort of way to get to know people and to think what's going on inside their mind. Well, all of the cards are laid out in front of you. There is a grid given to the clue giver, so knowing which cards you want the other person to pick up. Now, you then give a one-word hint and then a number. How many cards does your hint associate to, in the hope that they pick the ones that are for your team on your card? Obviously, if they don't do that or they get the wrong ones, it might be that it's one of the other teams, or it might be that you've picked the instant death card. Bad idea. Bad idea. There are, of course, multiple versions of this. You can pick up things like a Disney Codenames or a picture Codenames or an extra large Codenames. It comes in a multitude of flavours because it's so popular. But it is a really fun one. There's nothing better than sort of laughing over the fact that you know that specific person on your team will be able to pick up that if you say this clue for this many, they will instantly know that you're going to be talking in some obscure way about a musical or a Disney film, and then they're picking the correct ones as a result. Incredibly satisfying. Also, when they pick the wrong ones and you're sat there just willing them with your mind, please reconsider, and they're confident and going, yep, it's these ones, and you're like, no! It's fun for each side of the table that you play as, and equally in keeping an eye on what the others are doing and trying to work out what they're trying to play. That, of course, makes it number 1 in our top 50, and also brings this to a close. So end of part 3, we have reached the end. Thank you for coming on the journey with me. Of course, I recommend that you head back and you check out parts 1 and 2 for the full list of the ones that we've covered. However, obviously I would love to hear from you guys. Do you agree with the top 10? Would you make changes? Which would you add in? What stories have you got? Which ones have you got ones that you swap round? Would you put Codenames elsewhere? Would you bring Coup into the top 10? Yes, I'm mentioning it again because I think it's been lost out. It's a travesty. Let me know what you would do. Give me a chance to talk about party games. It's one of my favourite genres, and pop all those in the comments. While you're there, hit like and subscribe because we do a ton of videos of this type, and we are also huge fans of tabletop gaming, hence the name. Also, you can find more from us at tabletopgaming.co.uk, so be sure to go check that out. You can also find there the magazine that has this list, that this list was made for, so that is issue 56, so be sure to check that out too. I've been Charlie once again. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.